Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how you can make a flat Kumihimo braid with wire, and this is what it can end up looking like. So you get this really nice effect with the flat braid. You can see it's nice and flat, but then using the wire you get a completely different look than say using cord like you would normally do with Kumihimo. And you can really use this braid for so many different things. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the braid. I'm not going to show you how to finish it off, because you can finish it off and use it for many different things. So you could easily use this for a very nice and simple bracelet. It would give a really nice effect even though it would be quite simple, and also I think it's quite unisex as well. So this could easily be a male bracelet as well if you keep it nice and simple like that. So I'm just going to show you how to make the braid in this tutorial. So if you want to learn how to do it, then just keep watching. So it's just these materials here that we want to use. So first of all, we got a square Kumihimo disc because we are making a flat braid, and then we'll also need whatever wire you want to use. Now in this case I'm using a 0.8mm regular round copper wire. It's going to be nice and easy to work with, but you can really use whatever gauge you want to. So you can both use a thicker gauge or a thinner gauge. It's completely up to you. So for instance, a thinner gauge, say a 0.6, will obviously be much easier to work with than, for instance, a 1mm. It's going to be a little bit tougher to work with. So that's completely up to you, and also depending on the look that you want. So let's get the materials together and let's get started. So then the wire that we'll need is 7 lengths here of a 0.8mm of about 50 centimeters each, and that'll be sufficient for a bracelet length. So what we then just need to make sure to do with all our wires here is we need to kind of fasten them in one end. So all I've done here is I started a little bit up the ends of my wire. I took one wire, wrapped it around all of them until I used up the end. Then I took another wire after that, wrapped that around, used that up, and then I continued with that until I had just one wire left, which obviously there's nothing to wrap around. So what I did with that was just wrapped it up and made a little loop there, so coiled it up like that. And the main purpose of this is obviously to keep the wires together to put it on the disc, but it's equally also, when you do put it on the disc, then you need to figure out a way to kind of fasten these wires, because if you just wrap around once all of them, what you'll probably find is when you then go to start making a braid, the others will be able to pull through quite easily just through that one wrap. So that's why I made sure to just go around and use every single wire, so there is none of them that can just slip through and pull out while we're making the braid. So you just want to secure the end either like this or in another way that you find, and then we just need to fasten it onto the disc. So I now attached all my wires here onto my Kumihimo disc, so the square one, and what I've ended up with is I put 4 of my lengths of wire on the top, just in the middle of this top side, and then I put my 3 remaining ones on the bottom and just in the middle as well, but just slightly to the left there. So that's the positioning of the wires. So then to start making the braid, the basic principle of the technique here is the same as if you're using cord. You just got to bear in mind working with wire is a little bit different than working with the cord. But what we need to do is start from the top here, because on this one I've got 4 lengths, that's more than down here, so I'll take the top left one. And what I like to do as well, because it's wire here, whenever I move a wire I always like to smooth it out, because it will get some bends and stuff in it while we're working with it. Then I'm going to bring this out to the left side and place it in the slot out here to the side, and then we have 3 on each, both the top and the bottom there now. So what I'm going to do is then, we just freed up that top slot up here on the top side. Then what we need to do is take the left one on the bottom, because that's straight across from that empty slot that we're now freed up. So we need to take this one, bring it across the middle and fill in that slot that we just emptied on the top. So now we've freed up one on the bottom here, and that means we now need to take the one from the top, but that's the next one over. So I just placed the outer one, I move to the next one, so you can kind of say that's a neighbour. I just smooth it out and then bring it across the middle there and down to the empty slot that we just freed, just there. Then I take the next one over, smooth it out, and then bring it across the middle into the empty slot on the top that we just freed. And then I take the next one over, so the neighbour to that one, smooth it out, bring it across the middle and down in the empty slot on the bottom that we just freed up. Take the outer one on the bottom here, so the last one we have on the bottom row, release it across the middle and up to the top, the empty slot that we freed up before, and then I take the very last one on the top row here, release that, again I smooth it out. Because what you just want to make sure to smooth it out, so whenever you get in here at least that your wire in here is nice and smooth, because that's where the braid is going to form. We bring that down to the bottom in the empty slot that we just freed up. So you could almost say constantly the wires here are chasing each other. We free up one slot, we then bring the opposite one up to that, then we bring the opposite one down to the one we free up, and that's basically how we're going to keep going with the principle. Now, to move on to the next step, we need to take the one we put out to the side here on the left side. So I'm going to release that. We need to then bring it across the middle of the braid here, and the disc, out to the opposite side, so from the left over to the right. I place it on the right side there, and I just like to shape it as I go as well, to try and keep it, get a nice and even braid as possible. Now that's on the right side, so that means to be able to start again, we need to then have one here on the left side still. So we need to go back to the top, so that's this one, always the top left one, and then I just smooth it out, I bring it out to the side, so on that left side, the one that we just freed up that we brought over to that side. So again, we're just filling in the space, the gap there that we just freed up. Now we're ready to start swapping from top to bottom and bottom to top again. So I just freed up that gap up there, so that slot, I need to fill that in with the opposite one. So I'll grab the one from the bottom furthest to the left, smooth it out, bring it across the middle, and I like to just kind of help the wire along with my finger. It helps mold it in place. And then we've freed up the one on the bottom, so I need to take the next one from up here, so kind of the neighbour to the one I just put in, across the middle into the empty slot, the next one from the bottom across the middle to the top into the empty gap that we just freed again. So just like I said before, kind of constantly the wires are kind of following each other there, chasing each other. The next one, release, bring it over the middle and into the empty slot. Down the bottom here, the last one on the bottom row, release it, bring it over the middle and into the empty slot on the top that we just freed. And then we're in this position. So obviously now, we now have 3 wires on the top and 2 on the bottom. Then what we need to do now, we just freed up the slot down here on the bottom. That means we need to fill in that one next. And we need to use the one from the right side for that. So I release the one on the right side, smooth it out here. Then I just bring it down to that empty slot that we just freed. And then that sits in there. And we again now have 3 on each side. Now we need to then take the one from the left side and bring it over to the empty slot here on the right that we just freed up. And then basically this is going to be the path, or the pattern you can say, of the wires, continuously doing this over and over again. So bring the one from the left over the middle, and like I said, I like to just shape it a bit, mold it a bit with my hands, fingers, over on the right side just there, in the empty slot that we just freed by bringing that one down. And as you can see, it's basically a full go around, and we're now starting again. So that means the empty slot that I just freed on the left side needs to be filled in, and I fill that in with the one from the top furthest to the left, and just bring that straight up to the side. So there we go. And now we're ready to swap over from the bottom to the top and top to the bottom. So I just need to fill in that gap that I just freed with the opposite wire. So I take the one furthest to the left from the bottom, bring it up to the top, and then we just repeat all over again. So you can see it's just very repetitive. We just need to find the right path and the pattern here for your wires. We're constantly filling in the gap that we just freed up with the next wire, and also along the way make sure to smooth them out. So you don't, for instance, if you didn't smooth this out and you just kind of let it come in here, it would end up making the braid not look as neat and as kind of smooth and regular. So just make sure you smooth it out before any little kinks or bends reach all the way into the braid. So that's all the ones from the top to the bottom and bottom to the top. I need to fill in the bottom gap there by taking the one on the right side, releasing that and just bringing it straight down. Like that. And then I take the one from the left side to fill in the gap on the right side that I just freed up. And all you do is smooth it out, bring it over the middle, just guide it with your fingers, and there we go. And you can see that was another go around, and we're now ready to continue. Top left, just brings it out to the side to free up the gap that we just emptied, to fill in the gap, sorry, that we just freed up there. And then we start swapping from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top again. So that's all there is to this braid. It's the same basic technique as using cord. We're just using the wire instead, so it's going to obviously get a different look a bit, but then also it's just a bit different working with the wires here. So keep doing this until you reach the length that you want, or until you use up all your wires. So I now kept going for a while here, and I got quite a bit of braid done. I don't have that long length of my wire left, but what I just want to do is show you again, and also then show you how I like to work with my braid here using the wire, because I'm not doing it in exactly the same way as if I was using cord. So if I'm just going to go through it again, what you'll find that I actually do is, normally when I use cord, I'll pretty much hold the disc here, and then you can either use a weight underneath, or use your fingers to hold on to the braid there and help pull it through as well. I tend to use my fingers regardless, it just comes natural. But when I'm using wire here, because obviously it's a different material, I actually don't hold on to the disc. So what I do is I take my hand and I just hold on to the actual braid that I'm making here, right up underneath where the hole in the center of the disc is. And I just hold on to that, and I constantly kind of help pull the braid down, so push against the disc while I'm then basically putting some tension in there to help pull the braid through. So I'm actually not holding onto the disc at all, I'm just holding onto the braid because the wire here is holding onto the disc for me, because obviously the wire is much stronger than, say, cord, where you'd have to hold onto the disc. And I do this throughout. So the next step here, I need to bring this one over, and again I'm also smoothing these out as I go, and again that's also why I hold onto the braid, because I have that tension against each other so I can pull, give it a nice tension when I'm straightening my wire without worrying about the braid ending up, these wires coming off of the disc. So I pull that and then over to the other side, and then I'll swap hands whenever I feel like I need to, but still holding on to the actual braid. So I'm not holding on to the disc whatsoever, I'm actually only holding on to the wire underneath the braid, but then also then working with obviously the lengths of wire up here. And then I just keep going. And like I said, I like smoothing them out as I go, taking one and taking the next one down to that one's place, and so on. And that is basically how I prefer to work with it. So I'm holding onto my braid rather than my actual disc, which is the opposite of what I would do if I was using cord. Like that, and the outer one, and bring that down. That's another full go around. So I just wanted to mention that I do recommend you do that as well, that you hold on to the braid. It just gives you more control, and because it's different working with the wire here than it is with the cord. So I then kept braiding until I used up all my lengths of wire here, and I couldn't really use them anymore on the disc. And then this is what I've ended up with, a long length of braid, Kumihimo braid here, flat one, made with wire. So it gives a really nice effect, and you can get it really nice and even as well when you get your rhythm right, because in the beginning what you find is, so you most likely find the beginning is not the neatest compared to once you get into the rhythm of making the braid, but that's fine, you can just not use that part. But then obviously you have the braid and you can use it for whatever you want to, so you can make a simple bracelet out of this. I think that alone would be really nice. I think it'd also work well as a male bracelet, because this kind of nice effect, and obviously depending what materials you use or what colour wire and that, then all you'd have to do is finish off the ends. So I'm not going to show this on this tutorial here, but I do have other ones where I've shown how to do that. So say using ribbon ends, you just want to find one that's the right width for the braid, because you can also use more or less lengths of wires here, that's completely up to you. Find the ribbon end that fits, put a bit of glue inside, and then use a ribbon end on the end just like you would on anything else. So I do have a few other tutorials where I have shown that, so you can have a look at those. But otherwise you can use this braid for what you'd like to. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found this useful. You can maybe have some ideas of what to use this for. And thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this wire Kumihimo bracelet with beads running along the inside of the braid. And it looks like this. So this is the effect that you get. You have your Kumihimo braid on the outside but with wire, and then your beads running on the inside of the bracelet, and then finished off nicely at the end there. So this is actually using a Kumihimo technique that's called the hollow braid. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So the